College football fans, you deserve better. You deserve better than the AP poll, which I think sucks when it comes to ranking teams. You deserve better than some of the mind-numbing explanations you get from the College Football Playoff Committee as to why certain teams are higher than others when their reasoning makes no sense. It frustrates me to no end. We are 1 week away from the College Football Playoff Committee's initial rankings here. So what I want to do is this. I want to give you, through the first 9 weeks of the season, my rankings, the Hickey 12, the 12 teams that should be in the College Football Playoff based on everything we have seen from weeks 1 to 9. And each week we'll be doing this, as you know, I'll give you my 12, but also react to the College Football Playoff Committee's decisions and rankings as well. But since we're a week away, I want to kind of set the baseline here and give you my thoughts and opinions on what I've seen so far through the first 9 weeks of the season. So without further ado, let's throw up the graphic. There it is. That is the 12-team College Football Playoff format for this week, according to yours truly. If you're listening on our podcast feed, don't worry. By the way, check that out, Hick at Night, Night spelled N-I-T-E. Appreciate you listening there. Don't worry, I got you covered here. So we'll run through the rankings really quickly here first, and I'll give you my explanations. So top 4 seeds, remember, right? They get a bye in this new 12-team format. Oregon, Georgia, BYU, Miami. Remember, top 4 seeds are conference champions. Only they get a bye in the first round. Home field advantage, seeds 5 through 8, home game for the first round of the playoffs. Penn State 5, Texas 6, Texas A&M 7, Indiana 8, last 4 in. Ohio State 9, Tennessee 10, Notre Dame 11, Boise State 12. Also give you the next 3 out as well, but let's kind of break down, give you an explanation for some of these teams and why they're ranked where they are. First and foremost, Oregon, it's easy. Right, they are clearly the best team in college football. They're the most well-rounded. They're the most consistent right now. They have gotten better each and every week. Dylan Gable's tremendous. The receivers are great. Their defense is getting better. The run game's coming along. They are now, they have a great win over Ohio State. They are beating down everyone else they play. Oregon, most impressive team in the country by far. They're number 1. It's not debatable. Same thing with Georgia at 2. It's not a debate. The Bulldogs, even with the shakiness on offense, where I still don't really trust Carson Beck, the run game is non-existent, the receivers aren't getting really much separation and making a lot of plays. That defense, the defense we saw in Austin, just completely dominates the Longhorns in Austin in the game that honestly I thought, and most people thought, would be a Texas win. That was impressive. And that defense showed you when they are focused and have a chip on their shoulder, they're untouchable. Good luck trying to move the ball on that defense. They are untouchable. Georgia, despite the loss to Alabama in that ugly first half and some okay performances they've had against Mississippi State, amongst others, they are, to me, clearly the number 2 team in the country. They have that second seed there, representing the SEC. Representing the Big 12, and I have them ahead of Miami, is BYU because the Cougars, number 1, are actually a really damn good team. They don't get the respect they deserve. But number 2, they have a better resume than Miami. They have 2 ranked wins. They've beaten Kansas State. They went on the road early in the season and beat SMU. Who's Miami got? Nobody. Like Miami's resume stinks. Stinks. We made a lot of that opening win at Florida because it's just week number 1. It was in the swamp. But that Florida team is a little bit better than we thought, but they're not very good. And they've played down to their competition a lot. Games in which they should have lost Virginia Tech. I don't know how that Hail Mary was overturned. Should have lost at Cal. Egregious refereeing again. Almost lost to Louisville. Like, they play down to their competition way more than they should. They're lucky to right now be undefeated. Cam Ward is the best player in college football, hands down. Maybe him and Ashton Jeanty are 1 and 1A. But he's carrying that team right now. That offense is carrying the Hurricanes. But they're playing a dangerous game, man. They're playing a dangerous game. BYU has been more consistent. Jake Retzlaff, who they're calling the BY Jew, tremendous nickname, has been great. This offense has been great. But BYU right now has just been a better, more solid football team with a better resume. That's why BYU, to me, in my rankings, is 3 and Miami is 4. They deserve it. And guess what? In the Hickey 12, if you deserve it, you're getting it. BYU 3, Miami 4. All right, let's look at the home field advantage here, rankings 5 through 8. I did have a debate between Penn State and Texas because I do think here they are very similar. Where you look at the resumes and who they've beaten, there's no one win that jumps out at you for either team, right? You could look at, for Texas, Michigan, Oklahoma. Come on. Those teams are not very good. We've seen that play out. They were way overhyped and way overrated in the preseason. I'm not going to reward the Longhorns First, I mean, it's a solid win over Michigan on the road early in the season, but I'm not going to say that's a great win because the AP poll overrated them in the preseason, overrated Michigan, that is, and tried to sell it that they were better than they really were. And for Penn State, I mean, I think they had solid wins over West Virginia, USC, Illinois right now is the only ranked and still currently ranked team that either team has beaten. But I think both have solid wins, nothing eye-popping that jumps out. And obviously Texas, with that game they played against Georgia, it's not the fact that they lost as to why I have Penn State 5 and Texas 6. If Texas was competitive, if they showed a pulse on offense, if they made that actually a game, I would still be comfortable with putting a one-loss Texas above Penn State right now for that 5 seed. But because right now that game was non-competitive, for the duration of it, because that Texas offense was put in jail essentially with how little they moved around. Penn State 5, Texas 6 so far. A&M at 7, man. They are a really good team, and they have a great resume now as well. Really good win over LSU here at home. We saw the big difference Marcel Reed made, which thankfully Mike Elko made the right decision in keeping Reed now as a starting quarterback going forward. That's huge for the Aggies. But also you have that. You had a blowout win over Mizzou, which was overrated and overhyped, but still, you blew them out. You left no doubt who was the better team. Impressive win there for A&M. And your only loss right now is to Notre Dame, who is in my top 12. It's a good loss. All things considered, it's a good loss. So Aggies right now, they have a good resume, playing some good football. Signature win over LSU. They come in here at number 7. And number 8, look, we can have a discussion here who's maybe the most disrespected, underappreciated, underrated team in college football. I think BYU deserves some of that. But Indiana, man, Indiana is just a flat-out, really damn good football team. And the AP poll having them 13th this week is flat-out disrespectful. And I think highlights, they don't watch these games. At least they don't watch enough of the games they should, and maybe even have brand bias, and are not giving Indiana the respect they deserve. I get it's a basketball school, and I get the football program has been crap for years and decades. This team is legit. This team is different. Look at some of these numbers here. You could say, Ryan, they've not played anybody. I hear they haven't. Their schedule to this point has not been very strong. But you know what they've done? You know what they do? What good teams do? Bad English there. I apologize. They have done, this is the better way to phrase it. They've done what good teams do, and that is this. They make sure inferior opponents look inferior. Let me explain by some stats here. Indiana, in 8 games this season, has led for every single second of 8 games. They have never trailed one time so far this season. First time since 1998, Kansas State has a team led every single, or a team never trailed, I should say, through their first 8 games of the season. They're doing something that hasn't been done in almost 30 years. That's number 1. And number 2, Indiana has not only never trailed in a game so far this season, they're winning every game handily. They have won every single game so far this season by at least 2 touchdowns. They are dominating. They are making sure you know that they're the better team. They're leaving no doubt. This offense is one of the best in the country. Even without their starting quarterback last week against Washington, Curtis Rourke out, Taven Jackson in, they still put up 31 points and win by 2 touchdowns. They just keep on rolling. Be a great test here in a few weeks against Ohio State. But I think right now, Indiana has been better, has been more impressive, and has a better resume than the Buckeyes. That's why Indiana is 8 with a home game in Bloomington, and Ohio State is 9. I have real concerns about the Buckeyes. They have offensive line injuries that are massive. Look at that Nebraska game last week. They couldn't run the ball at all, despite having the best running back duo in the country in Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins. Couldn't run the ball. That's a concern. Their defense in big games, and we saw it once this year against Oregon, can't get after the quarterback. They struggle getting pressure. That's a concern. So Ohio State has a real chance this week to send a message and set the record straight and make me eat my words here when they go to Happy Valley. Take out Penn State. Game I'll be at, by the way. But right now, where's the impressive win? The most impressive thing they've done so far this season is lose by 1 on the road at Oregon. And I'm not somebody who prioritizes bad losses. For me, it's who you beat, then it's who'd you lose to. With A&M, we talked about their win over LSU before we talked about their loss to Notre Dame. Who you beat is much more important to me than who you lose to. There is such thing as a good loss, but it doesn't supersede who you've beaten. That's part of the reason why, at least right now for Ohio State, they came with a lot of hype, but they've not lived up to it so far. And they don't have the resume to back up and justify a top 8 ranking. So guess what we're not going to do? Put them in the top 8. They're there at number 9. Tennessee at 10. This offense has been disappointing so far. I thought they'd be a little bit higher, but the Vols come in here at number 10. They had a really good win over Alabama a few weeks ago that I thought they were going to lose, so credit to them. They have a big game at Georgia here in a few weeks as well. They should have, again, they lost to Arkansas, so you can't say with certainty here. But as long as they take care of business the way they should going forward, this should be a 2-loss at most team in the playoff. That Georgia game can be a little bit irrelevant later in the year. But still, if you're Tennessee, you got to get that offense going here. Like if you want to, forget about making the playoff. You want to compete and win a playoff game, try to make the Final Four, you need your guy in Nico Iamaleava to step up here, to play a lot better, to get the ball rolling here. He has struggled. This offense has struggled. You got to score points. And since going to SEC play, they have really been held to little points here. They got to get better, but they come in here at number 10. Notre Dame sits at 11. And I was debating whether to put Notre Dame in. Again, I'll tell you that the first 3 out, and I was debating back and forth to put this team into Notre Dame, kind of keep the Irish here. How can I justify my rankings? And I came down to this. Notre Dame by far has the worst loss of any team right now in these rankings. But why they get the benefit of the doubt is because they had a really good win on the road at Texas A&M that continues to look better by the day. And they are getting better. Like they are playing better football as the weeks have gone on. Since that NIU loss, I could say them and Oregon are the 2 teams that I feel confident the most in of saying they have gotten better each and every week. Incrementally, there's been improvement. I like Riley Leonard now using his legs a lot more than he has earlier in the season. They had a good win over Navy, which came in at 24, and obviously now they drop out with a loss, but still it's at least a resume boost. You have ranked Army here in a few weeks as well, so they have a few more opportunities to get some decent wins on the schedule, decent wins on the resume. But I like what Notre Dame is doing. I still think right now they deserve to be in the top 12, rounded out by Boise State at number 12. Now look, I said it before, right? Jeanty, Cam Ward, 1-1 in terms of best players in college football. But I think there's a real chance that at Boise State, we're talking about them not as a 12 seed, but higher. I think it's assumed, right? The group of 5 is going to be that last seed, the 12. I don't think that's the case. I think Boise State has a real chance to climb up to 11, maybe even 10, and get a higher seed because they're playing good football. Now, I'm not going to reward them, right? We just talked about a good loss does not supersede any wins here. The best thing on their resume right now for Boise State is the fact they went on the road to Oregon and lost by just 3. Really impressive. Jeanty was tremendous in that game, almost 200 yards on the ground, 3 touchdowns, and you lose on a walk-off field goal. That's tremendous. The problem for Boise State is the fact that they don't have any other impressive win on their resume to this point, and you look ahead to the schedule the rest of the season, they don't have many good wins and opponents left. So trying to pad the resume is going to be tough for the Broncos, which may make it a little tougher to kind of justify moving them to 11 or 10 in the final playoff poll. But to their credit, for the most part, they are dominating, like Indiana, every team they play. That's impressive. Boise State here in the Hickey's 12 debut, I should say, does come in at number 12. Next 3 out really fast here. Clemson. I like how they're playing, man. Their offense has really kind of clicked and locked ever since that Georgia debacle. But their resume is not strong enough right now to justify their inclusion in this 12-team playoff. They're playing good football, though. That will come, as they get deeper in the year. If they make the ACC title game, I feel like that's a lock for them to get in, even if they do lose that game. Clemson trending in the right direction after losing opener to Georgia. Iowa State. They are out for me, even though right now they are undefeated because their resume is not very good. They currently have on their schedule, either they have played or will play, just 4 FBS teams that have a winning record. They hit the Big 12 lottery in terms of getting the right schedule to break you away. They don't face many challenging opponents. They have K-State at the end of the year. Other than that, it has been a cakewalk, will be a cakewalk. For Iowa State, good for you that you're undefeated. I'm not putting you in the playoff just because you have no losses in the loss column. If you don't win any impressive games, I can't put you in. I'm sorry, I can't put you in the 12-team playoff. So right now, because the resume is blah, Iowa State outside looking in. And finally, Alabama. 2 losses already. Defense is a real concern. Jalen Milroe's regression is a real concern as well. They have to run the table. They have to run the table bare minimum to have any hope. Now, their resume took a little bit of a hit with LSU losing on the road to A&M. So now when they play in a few weeks, won't be a top 10 matchup that I'm sure they were hoping for to help boost the resume. But you have to bare minimum beat LSU on the road in Death Valley here at night in a few weeks to have any prayer of competing and making the 12-team college football playoff. So that's their season right now is on the balance. They need to win out. There will be no 9-3 team this year making the CFP. All right, so that'll do it for this first edition of Hickey's 12, the 12 college football playoff teams that should be in this week. Again, we'll be back every Wednesday morning, so make sure you do subscribe to YouTube, Ryan Hickey. Make sure you do check out the Hick at Night podcast, wherever you get your pods, Night spelled N-I-T-E. We'll be here every week giving you my 12 teams, but also reacting, starting next week, to the College Football Playoff Committee rankings. I'm sure it'll be fun. You don't want to miss it.